I am Kevin Iole. We had a little fun off camera before we started here. My guest right now, UFC 270 on Saturday in Anaheim, a huge card, and the UFC president, and now who I refer to as Dr. Dana White, is my new guest now. Dr. Dana, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing awesome. Really excited about this fight card, UFC 270. And let's start, there's so many positives on the fight card. Let's start with one small negative thing. I'm hearing more about Francis Ngannou's pay than I'm hearing about Francis Ngannou, the fighter. What's going on there? Why can't we get this narrative out there? We have one of the best heavyweight fights the UFC's ever put on. And most of the conversation is about, is Francis Ngannou going to be back?
Yeah, no, this happens all the time. This is nothing new for me. Over the last 20 years, we get in these situations sometimes, but whether you take all the negativity and drama that surrounds the fight, it's all part of the storyline and all part of the fight. I mean, you have the bad blood between these two. They both came from the same camp with the same trainer, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the fight speaks for itself. You got Francis Ngannou, who is the heavyweight champion of the UFC. The guy's on a 5-fight win streak, 100% finish rate, taking on Ciryl Gane, who is undefeated, 10-0, and arguably the greatest striker in the history of the heavyweight division. And it's not like this is one of those fights where you have this knockout artist versus a jiu-jitsu guy. The jiu-jitsu guy's got to get him down to the ground. This is striker versus striker.
This could
raw power versus technique.
I mean, what Ciryl Gane did to Derek Lewis in August was incredible, that fight. He just totally diffused Derek's power. And I guess that's why the odds are what they are. I'm looking at the numbers, Dana, right now for BetMGM. Are you surprised it's this high? Ciryl Gane is up to a -150 favorite. You can get Ngannou, the champion, who, as you said, has a 100% knockout rate, +125.
Holy shit. Yeah, I didn't know that. But I love fights like this where you have this champion with this type of power, and the interim champion who's coming in is actually the odds on favorite to win. That's what makes this fight. Some people get sucked in by the drama and all the other stuff that goes on and the bad blood, but at the end of the day, this fight will absolutely positively speak for itself.
I want to ask you if you feel this way. A Francis Ngannou fight reminds me in a way of a Mike Tyson fight, because, you were at Golden Gloves Gym back in the day when Tyson would train and everything, right? And you would see that, you just knew something crazy would happen. Francis could be getting beat for, 4 rounds and, 4 minutes of the 5th round, and you still have that punching power that could end the fight on that spot. And that kind of ability just excites people. And there's always, like, you have a buzz in the pit of your stomach when Francis Ngannou fights, because you don't know what's going to happen. Is that fair, fair for you to say? Do you have that too? When he fights, you kind of get that little butterfly in your stomach?
It's so true. Absolutely. And when you get a heavyweight championship fight like this, I'm telling you, you've been to a million. The buzz and the energy in this place on Saturday night is going to be insane. We're sold out. We haven't been back there for like 2.5 years in Southern Cal. It's going to be incredible. We broke the record for that arena, was held by the Rolling Stones, 3.5 million. We had it at one point. The Stones got it at 3.5 million. We get it again. The gate for this fight is $5 million.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you think the pay-per-view numbers will translate with that? Because generally when you have a big gate like that, the pay-per-view numbers generally translate and you get a big number. Do you see the early returns saying that may happen?
100%. 100%. Yeah, this is a big fight for us on Saturday.
That's awesome. In the co-main event, Brandon Moreno, to me, he needs to win this fight, because I think he has the potential to be a star for you. What a personality this kid has, and just a charismatic guy, and what a fighter. I mean, he's a, and I love the story of a guy who was cut in the UFC and comes back and becomes a world champion. But do you agree with me? Like, do you feel like this kid has the star qualities? Because there's a lot of good fighters, right? But it's a special thing to become a star, that become an attraction. You haven't had that really at 125 yet. He might be your first star if you can beat.
He already is. He already is. I mean, I've been saying this to everybody. Watch Saturday night when that kid comes into the arena. You don't realize it until you do. we do some of these signings and things like that with him. This kid's a huge star. And, you know, you're really going to see it and feel it on Saturday.
You know, it's been interesting. And I think you said Mick was rebuilt your flyweight division for you, right?
Right.
Mick Mader, one of your matchmakers. You know, you had some great flyweights in the past, but it seemed like nobody ever really hit, like, you know, Cejudo because of what, you know, what he had done. But, you know, nobody hit where they're as popular as Brandon seems to be. Why do you think the division is, you know, taken off? And what's the key to Brandon's popularity?
Yeah, well, obviously, first Mexican-born world champion for the UFC. And yes, I mean, the division is rebuilt with straight killers. I mean, all these guys that are in this division now are killers. We finally got a Mexican-born world champion. The trilogy between him and Figueiredo is awesome. Figueiredo is a savage. This guy comes in to destroy you. I just, you know, the division couldn't be any more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there was talk after Figueiredo lost in June that he was going to end up going to bantamweight, which I thought at the time I thought was the right move. And I still question a little bit, but my questioning of Figueiredo is a little less now after I'm sure you saw the picture he posted of his body. And I mean, he was shredded, like unbelievably shredded. So it had been 8 days before the fight. He posted it last Friday. Did you see that? And what kind of intel do you have on the shape that Figueiredo's in? Because that's been the one big question about him in flyweight. Can he make the weight?
Yeah, no, I agree. I did not see the picture. We're looking for it right now, so I can check it out. That's good to hear. You know, I want to hear that he's taking this thing serious, that he's in the, oh my God.
Yeah, hold that up because it's incredible. Yeah.
Can you see it?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, he's shredded. He looks good, man. I love it. So that's a good sign that he's going to come in on weight and we're going to have a great fight.
And you know, it's interesting. I picked Figueiredo in the fight. You know, my intention was probably all along, you know, after seeing the second fight, hey, Moreno's going to win this fight. And then I saw how Figueiredo looks, and I thought, you know, this guy's taking it serious. You know, and he's an amazing guy, and with what he has. But he is a big underdog as well. Moreno is minus 170, which surprised me. I thought this might be a pick'em fight, and Figueiredo's at plus 140.
That's fascinating. Yeah. The odds on these fights are very interesting.
You know what's different too, Dana, and I know you guys have a sponsorship with DraftKings. Caesar Sportsbook is with ESPN. Back in the day in boxing, you know, you would see the odds would always be pretty much the same, and there would be very little movement between them. But on a lot of your fight cards, the numbers are different from sportsbook to sportsbook. So there's value there for bettors who can, you know, if you have an opinion, you can find a number that works for you.
It's so true. I love the fact that you get to shop around and get the best possible line. And I think that's because of the money that's being laid down at these different casinos. Lawrence Epstein, our COO, was just telling me they ran some data on people betting on UFC fights last year. It was off the charts.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's at the El Cortez downtown. You know what I mean? So you can imagine the action that like Caesars and places like that is getting.
Yeah, for people who don't know, El Cortez is one of the older hotels in Las Vegas, kind of a small hotel, not a lot of traffic. I think it's probably, my guess would be mostly local traffic would be in there in the El Cortez. So, you know, if they're doing record numbers down there, yeah, like you say, you know, MGM, you know, Caesar's Palace, those ones are going to go crazy.
True.
So.
True.
Well, let's talk about one that actually there's not a line up yet. I saw some preliminary lines people put up, Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal. I love the fight, and it kind of proves my point that we had an argument a while back when I said you didn't need a title fight in the main event, and you said you did. This one's not a title fight, and it's the main event of UFC 272. I love the fight. Colby Covington is a fairly significant favorite in the early numbers. I don't know that anybody officially has a number out, but I saw people were saying 275 up to as high as 350. Does that surprise you?
No, it doesn't, because that kid's looks so good. You know what I mean? If Kamaru Usman did not exist, Colby Covington would probably be the champion
right
now. I got a question for you. Now that you asked me, somebody just asked me this. Yeah. Somebody just asked me this a little while ago. Who do you think are the best three UFC fighters of all time?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So John Jones, of course, I would say no doubt John Jones. Habib would be number two. Number three, I'm going to have a group, and I'm going to give you an answer who I think, but the ones I'm considering would be George St. Pierre, Kamaru Usman, and Demetrius Johnson. And I think based on strength of schedule, I eliminate Demetrius. So I now go to George St. Pierre and Kamaru Usman, and I'll go with Usman. I mean, he's been undefeated for a long time. I think the sport is better now than it's ever been, and there's better athletes in the sport. And so I think he's beating better guys than GSP did. GSP beats him. GSP is
of his time, right?
OG, yeah. But I think when you look at it overall, Usman has had more. So those would be the three I would say.
We're very aligned. I picked John Jones. I picked Kamaru Usman, GSP, Kamaru Usman, GSP, and Anderson Silva
over Habib.
Yeah. Anderson just did more. He was there longer. The dominance of Habib is unbelievable. And like you say, it's a different day and era with different levels of skills. And but yeah, I was curious to see what you would say. We're very aligned.
It's a very fun debate. I always love those kind of debates. And, it's one that's like, you can't really prove, but everybody has their opinion. And it's just, but like when I look at Habib, Dana, so look at Justin Gaethje, look at how he looked against everybody else and look how he looked against Habib.
So true.
Amazing. So, hey, how did you get that Masvidal fight done? Like, I know that, Colby didn't seem to be so interested in that fight for the longest period of time. The bad blood between them, and he didn't want to give him the payday, quote unquote. Was it a hard negotiation, or did both of them, kind of realize their situation and accept it?
Yeah, they both wanted it. They both know it's the fight to make.
That, to me, now, maybe I'm not thinking correctly, but off the top of my head, I mean, to me, it's you almost have to have a championship fight to be a $1 million seller pay-per-view right in the main event. But that might be that one rare one. If you have some stuff happen between now and March, that you might go off and have a really big number with those two guys promoting the fight.
Yeah, we think it's a big fight too. Plus, at the end of the day, you're going to stay home on Saturday night and watch a fight if you know it's going to be a great fight.
Right.
That's going to be a great fight. Yeah. People don't like Colby, but let me tell you what, Colby shows up to fight, man. He shows up to fight. And these two hate each other so bad. It's going to be a great fight.
Do you think it hurts Colby at all that not the fight with Usman, but after, when he's embracing Usman and he says to him, it's all love. I was just trying to sell the fight and everything. So, I think we all kind of knew that, right? But now that he's caught on camera, on microphone saying that, that the shtick is bullshit and it's not really legit. Do you think that hurts him? Because I think he made himself into a star by the bad guy image, right?
Well, it doesn't matter. All that matters is the fight. Whatever people say to each other before the fight, all that goes right out the window. I mean, before the Usman Covington fight was even made, the second one, all I kept talking about is that the first one was one of the best fights I've ever seen.
Right.
So at the end of the day, listen, if you got a guy that goes out and talks a lot of trash and then goes in and stinks the place up, there's nothing worse than that. There's nothing worse than a talker that doesn't deliver.
Right.
That is not Colby Covington.
No, I agree with that. He delivers. He comes in. And another guy who delivers, I want to ask you about it. And, maybe I'll stick up for him a little bit, is Henry Cejudo. He wanted to take the fight against Volkanovski, 2-division champion in the UFC. And you didn't really have much interest in that. And I know, GSP came back after a 4-year layoff immediately into a middleweight title fight main event against Michael Bisping. I don't know what
he didn't come back immediately. There's so many different little pieces of the puzzle that I heard John McCarthy was talking a bunch of shit about this.
Well, he put a tweet out. Yeah, he didn't talk a bunch, unless he said something that I heard, but he put a tweet out saying that he deserved the fight.
Okay, I heard that he was talking a bunch of shit about it. So I'll refrain from saying what I was going to say. So the reality is, first of all, Cejudo isn't even in the USADA pool. I mean, there's just so many things that like people don't understand what it takes for this to happen. George St. Pierre was still in USADA. You know what I mean? He would have to get into the USADA again, and there's a period of time that he would have to be tested, and he couldn't just take a short notice fight in a different weight division. There's so much more to it than that.
And I know that happened with Brock Lesnar, that fight. And was it Mark Hunt fight? I guess it was, the infamous Mark Hunt fight. And that's never going to happen again, where a guy will get through. Do you think it's fair to say that was a one-off, that Lesnar was able to get in without having the 6 months in the pool before?
USADA was testing him. He was tested leading up to that fight. Right. He tested negative 4 times before he got into that fight.
Right. Anyways, yeah, the thing was, I mean, I think everybody would love to see Cejudo against Volkanovski in the absence of Max Holloway, given how good Cejudo has been, and certainly, you were asking me about who the best fighters were. I mean, Alex Volkanovski's still quietly moving up there. Look at what he's doing. How many wins in a row does he have? 20 some wins, and some of that, he's beaten Max Holloway twice, Brian Ortega. All of a sudden, Volkanovski, he's under the radar, but you got to start talking about Volkanovski as one of the best.
You are absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And the thing is too, with Cejudo was retired, and Cejudo, there's a way to go about, if you really want to fight, if that's what you really want to do, like you want the Volkanovski fight, what you don't do is, I mean, you could go online and start talking to Volkanovski and calling them names and doing all this stuff. But what you'd really have to do is like pick up the phone and call and say, hey, what's the procedure I need to follow to get back into a fight? I want to unretire, and when can I get back into the USADA pool? How fast, and what do I need to do? That's how you get a fight. I mean, his manager has 280,000 fighters under contract in the UFC.
Ali Abdelaziz.
Cejudo's been here forever. If you really want to fight, get down here and make some calls and, say, hey, what do I need to do to get back into the fight? I want to jump back in. So
that's
how you do it. You don't call people out. You don't call people out and call them names on Twitter and then expect we're going to pick up the phone and go, hey, we got a fight for you. We're going to do you and I. Come on, man.
You don't think he's serious about this then?
What?
Do you not think he's serious?
Well, then get it done. You know how to do it. Have your manager call over here and get the deal done. That's why I was saying the other night when we're sitting there and the media is saying, well, Henry Cejudo said this and this guy said that and this guy said, this is a silly conversation. This is ridiculous to even talk about. You're asking me about a retired fighter that isn't anywhere near coming back to take on Alexander Volkanovski, who's in a different weight class in a short notice fight. Why are we talking about this? How does this make sense? If he really wants to fight, get on the phone with your matchmakers and get the ball rolling.
Well, let's go one angle off of that fight. Max Holloway, I was really disappointed that fight was postponed. What is Holloway's injury and how long is he out?
God, off the top of my head, I want to say it's a hand. Or a hand is an old injury. I can't remember what happened with Max. And I don't know how long he's out.
Okay. All right. Well, that's too bad. I mean, we'd love to see him come back. Now, I know you've been doing a lot of interviews today, and you broke some news earlier. You said March 19th in London. Now, an official show that's on, correct?
Did I say March 19th in London to somebody?
I saw on Twitter where it says on Barstool Sports, you said March 19th in London, and it was going to be Jared Gordon against Paddy the Baddy.
Paddy Pimblett. Yeah. Did I say the date? I don't think I did either. I don't think I said the date, but yeah, we did say it was in London.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're working on.
No, I saw you're working on that for whatever it matters. Brian Butler responded to the tweet saying that he's the manager of Jared Gordon. He hasn't heard from the UFC on that fight yet.
Yeah, March 19th is the date.
And is that the O2?
And that's the problem. When people ask me that, then you got a goofy manager going, I haven't heard from him yet. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a problem. That's
right.
Why I don't like to do this when people ask me and I'm like, oh, just throw me a bone. And I'm sitting in here and it's on the thing. I don't know if the guy's got the deal done yet. You know what I mean? And then you got that guy going on. It's just, huge cluster.
Well,
that's exactly why when people ask me, I don't like saying it.
I got
you. Always got that guy. He's got to jump right on Twitter. I manage him, and I don't know about this. Oh.
Well, I'm gonna end it on a more fun note. February 5th, you got a fight card, and then Jack Hermansson is going to be fighting Sean Strickland, and Strickland is really fascinating me. I mean, I think he's made a lot of improvement as a fighter. Love what he's been doing as a fighter, but he's also doing this a lot, right, Dana? And he's saying some crazy, outlandish things. It's like, almost like, Colby Covington-esque. He's not, getting in. How do you see that fight going? And what do you make of Strickland, where he's at in his career right now?
Yeah, I mean, the guy is tough, nasty, mean, and fun to watch. So, I always look forward to his fights, and you never know what this guy's going to say or what he's going to, he's a fascinating human being.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I lied. I want to ask one other thing. Hamzat Chimaev, obviously, my favorite guy to ask you about. What do we have for him? We still don't see his name on the schedule.
Don't even get me on. I'll try to give you something, and it'll be wrong too. We're working on him though. Obviously, huge fan favorite, and everybody wants to see him back. So we're working on it. As soon as we find out and get something done, you'll be the first to know.
All right, you heard it here first. Yep. All right. Anyway, we're going to let you go, Dana. I appreciate your time. UFC 270 on Saturday at the Honda Center in Anaheim. 2 title fights at the top. Going to be explosive. Going to really be fun. I'll be there. Look forward to seeing you there, Dana. Thank you so much, and all the best.
You too, buddy. Have a great day.
You too. See ya.